Hello and welcome back to the Overflow podcast. I'm Andrea Lehman and I'm joined by Bronwyn Deiter and Becky Webb. Today we're going to be talking about being the gatekeepers of your home and also how to do it with less stress. So we're talking about non-toxic or low-tox living. Um, but I think the main message we want to get across today is that this doesn't have to be an overwhelming charge to get every toxin out of your home because it's close to impossible to do that. But how can we have balanced living when it comes to this conversation around toxins? Let's start off, Bronwyn, if you would start us off with just sharing like a little bit about your journey, like how did you start detoxing?
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I love this topic. Actually, looking back at my own journey, that was a long time ago that I became aware of the toxins in the world. And I am a researcher, so I started digging, and it's one of those topics where you just go down the rabbit hole where you realize like, oh my goodness, there's so much here. There's so much we're exposed to, and we have no idea that products we just think are normal because goodness, even our grandmother used them, but we didn't even know that they've changed formulations over the years. Like one of the things, and maybe some listeners can recognize this, is that like even things like detergents have like way more fragrance. It's even like the amount of things we're exposed to than when we were kids. It's like they keep putting more and more in because we become nose blind or something. Anyway, so that like it was when I was first a mom, when I first had my first baby, and I was like, okay, I only want to get like a lotion for her that is not toxic. So I went to the natural food store and read labels, and I'd heard a few things from friends. And so one of the things I was looking for was like getting a soap, a shampoo for my baby that did not have SLS in it, which is really like a stripping type of a really harsh cleaner. And it bubbles up a lot. So most like bubble baths have that as a base. And there's controversy about whether it itself is like super toxic or if it just like strips away all of our protection so that any other toxin, chemical toxin in that formula then like drives in so much faster. At any rate, there was a day that I was at the grocery store and um, I had the time to go down the entire aisle and look at every bottle of shampoo and body wash. I looked at every bottle and they were basically all the same. And that was shocking to me. I mean, they were like maybe some of the ingredients were in a little bit different order, or they certainly smelled different one to another, right? Because they have different key fragrances, like signature fragrance. But in general, like looking at the labels, I was like, these are all the same product. They might be made by the same company. And you know what? Many of them actually are just manufactured in the same facilities. And then everything about them is marketing as far as like which one you choose. But also, all of them were just equally as toxic. And I could see that. So that's why I went to the natural food store and started looking and then realized, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to look at every label of everything I buy. And how will I even know what these ingredients mean? Because I'm looking for like one thing to try and exclude it. And yet I have no idea what the rest of this means. Um, so over the years, there's been a lot of helps and aids for that. Like people have created websites or apps or different things to try and help us. And we're going to get into that as far as like how to use those and the limitations of those, because some of them are really limiting. Um, anyway, this is actually this topic of like healthy living, non-tox. This is why I started my blog when I first began blogging at cleangreenstart.com because I was like, okay, I'm going to like do one product, figure out like some good options, and then write a blog on it so my friends have a place to go see kind of my recommendations. So this was back, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, something back when blogging was a thing. Now it's not really as much. um, and then over the years, I've realized that actually the most important thing is to kind of create your own filter of like what you are or not going to have in your home and what are your kind of your non-negotiables. Also learn that, I mean, there's so many different kinds of toxins. It's not just chemical. There's also electromagnetic toxins. There's hidden toxins like you buy produce at the grocery store and it doesn't come with a label as far as all the ingredients of chemicals put on it, right? So you have to become kind of savvy around what you're choosing to buy organic, what you're going to wash extra well, um, even beef, right? Like we now know there's a big difference between grass-fed beef and conventionally raised beef, and these all end up being either positives or negatives in our bodies when we consume them. So, but we're not really going to focus on food today, right? We're just focusing on
No,
kind of our home.
Just
yeah, I don't
focusing
think
on
we should
products.
focus
Yeah.
on food. I
Yeah.
think what as we talk about this too, I think it's really important too to bring up that we give ourselves a lot of grace in this
Mm,
process, especially for people that are new to this, because I feel like it can be overwhelming. I don't know, probably a lot of people have seen like those few Instagram accounts that like tell you all the horrible things that are going to happen to you all the time. So I think we have to remember like come to it balanced also
hmm.
and say one we have to be able to do it on our budget, right? Two, I mean, we're going to have to be able to do it with boundaries, knowing that we'll have to just, if this is new to someone listening, like that they have to make baby steps to get there and it's okay. Like, there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with you. You're not a bad mom. Like, you just do what you know when you know it, you try to do better. And so give yourself a lot of grace, take a lot of baby steps, and then literally stress. I think the stress over it can make things so much worse
Yes.
Mm.
physically. And so I just want people to also make sure they're thinking through that as we talk about this, because it's not about slapping your hand or being a bad mom or, oh my gosh, we're all gonna, die, all this, like, like it's like we need to come to it balanced also. At the
That's
same time, like, when you know better, you do better. So you have to come to it like just with a balanced attitude, or it can be dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's really true because we want to do this in freedom and with
Mhm.
joy. And I think that it's so liberating to make decisions for like what we enjoy and what's beautiful because actually we can step into that and want to do that instead of feeling like we're restricted. And so that's something that that's a theme that has come for me in both like products and food and a lot of areas is like really choosing the best when you can and just like being grateful for everything you already have. Um,
I feel like there's so much fear mongering too in marketing
yeah,
that,
which actually sets us up for the greenwashing. So
yeah,
greenwashing is
Exactly.
like where, greenwashing is where like some product is like given as natural and then you look at the ingredients, it's like not even at all natural, right?
So an example of that would be like method
Yes.
or
Mrs.
uh
Myers,
let's say
which are
Mrs.
owned by
Myers. Yes.
yeah, owned by the same company, which also produces like off insect repellents, like
And
totally toxic.
Comet, all of
Comet
those really toxic ones
and
that you
Bubble,
want nothing to do with. Yeah.
yeah,
And
horrible other products.
yeah,
And then,
and probably actually most companies probably have some kind of greenwash line now
mhm,
because it's
and
really good for marketing. So like you also have to be really careful whether you're on the healthy, quote unquote healthy side or unhealthy side to not give into the marketing too. I think
mhm,
that you want to make the best decisions for your family. You want to make balanced decisions for your family. You don't want to cause extra stress. It's not worth it. It's just like, it's not worth it. If you can't change your toothpaste, yes, like it's not worth it. So I would just say, yeah, oh, the overarching umbrella should be like a lot of grace. And I like what you said, Bronwyn, about just choosing beautiful things, like choosing things we know for are good for us and beautiful.
mhm.
mhm,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Back to the method. It's either the method or that Myers one, and one of their products has like coconut oil in it, right? And so they'll add like things that, we would consider to be healthy or natural or whatever.
Like a real plant-based product.
Right. Yet you look
Yeah.
at the other ingredients and it's like, well, you just added that to what was already super toxic. So we do have to be savvy. And I 100% agree with you, Becky, that we want to do this in a way that is not causing more stress because I think actually stress, which is going to be another podcast topic, is more detrimental than being exposed to some toxins here and there. So
Yeah.
my story goes back to, yeah, right before I had kiddos, which is interesting because I think that that's like that key time for most females, right? We may kind of just be going along in life and doing our own thing and not really be paying attention to, the hair products we're using and the skincare we're using and whatever. And then we have a baby. And then all of a sudden it's like, and I see this all of the time because I run a naturally minded moms Facebook group locally. And almost every time that a new mom comes into the group, she says, I'm just wanting to do better because I have a baby now. So I want to know like what things to avoid and what things that. So it definitely is, I feel like a shifter for females in general. And I think females are often the ones that are making those kind of decisions in their homes anyway. So it does, it falls on us to make those decisions. So I remember it was right before I had my oldest and had been introduced to Young Living, so I was learning a little bit. And then I read a book, cannot remember the name of it right now, but the author of it had this whole long list. I'm talking like it was something like 200 whatever to avoid, and I'm looking through this list and I remember just feeling absolutely overwhelmed because I was doing or participating or using most of the things that this author was saying to avoid. And I can just remember being like, how will I ever get to a place where I'm not like implementing these toxins and, whatever it was into my lifestyle? And I guarantee now we're like what? 16 years later, I guarantee that if I went back and looked at that list, I would be able to say, oh, most of those things I don't do. Maybe there's a handful of them that I still include, but most of them I don't do anymore or use. And so I think at the beginning, for those who are at the beginning of your journey, just doing one thing at a time is great. Now, on the other hand, if you are more like my personality, you're going to say, all right, so I know all of these ingredients are terrible, and you're going to have that day where you just like load all of the crap up from your house and you take it out to the garbage like I did. And then you just kind of have to start over, right? With looking more intentionally at ingredients. I'm curious, ladies, what is like the one thing in your home that you like it's a non-negotiable, like it doesn't come into your home or like maybe one thing that you brought into your home to help with whatever, like what's one thing that's important to you in your home when it comes to this conversation?
I mean, I think one thing for me is like just I use, this same cleaner for everything. I mean, y'all use it too. I
I
use
think we
the
all use the
cleaner for
same cleaner,
everything.
the
I
thieves
can use
cleaner.
it for my windows and I can use it for my floors and I can use it for my countertops and it's all plant-based and it's all safe. And that was like the greatest thing I think to ever enter my house. Like,
I
because
100%.
it's so easy and it's really not expensive and like
I wouldn't say it's really not expensive. I would say that it's cheap. Like when you think
it's cheap.
about how far one bottle goes with the concentrate.
Well, that's the
What does it
thing.
make? Like 28, 24 bottles or 28 bottles from one concentrate bottle?
Yeah, I mean, people that don't understand it freak out and look at the bottle and don't realize it's a concentrate. And I'm like, that goes real far, like real far.
I loved that I could put like the two things when we first started using it. I loved that I could put my kids to work who were then like, I don't know, 2 and 5 years old or something like that when that was launched. And I loved that I didn't really have to like move my toothbrushes when I was trying to like spray the
Yeah.
mirrors behind the sink. I was like, it got on the toothbrush. I don't care. Yeah, that one's a keeper for sure. Bron, what about you?
It's hard to actually think of this because this has been such a long journey. So I'm not actually the person that likes these questions like would you rather, like for but I would say like the fragrance thing, the synthetic fragrance, I just cannot do that. And so um the main product that I think actually ends up fragrancing our homes so much is laundry detergent. And so when we have fragrance laundry detergent, it gets into our bedding, into our clothing, and then we become nose blind to it. But I don't know if you guys ever if you experience this, but I was raised in a family with a bunch of kids, and we always took everybody's hand-me-downs. We're grateful for hand-me-downs. We also had other clothes we bought, but we love hand-me-downs. My kids love like we take hand-me-downs, we give hand-me-downs, and we go to Goodwill. My kids love to go to Goodwill, and they're like there's like a certain like fashion thing where you can only do Goodwill because those clothes aren't sold in the stores. My fashionistas. Anyway, the clothes that come home from Goodwill, they put I think an additional fragrance into them. We have to work so hard to get that out of them. out of the clothes. Like we wash it, put it outside, sunshine, like this whole thing, baking soda, all the stuff.
If those aren't
Um,
from the people that just donated them, you
I
think
wonder, but I feel like there's a specific Goodwill smell that is like
maybe.
I've always
Sometimes
thought it was the
shop at Goodwill, it
combination
is.
of
It's
all
horrible
of the
smell.
detergents together that just comes
maybe,
together and makes the
maybe
Goodwill
it is.
smell.
I don't
But
know. It is a bad
and
smell.
also there's like we've had, hand-me-downs come to us where the bag, like you can open and be like, oh, this is for the Johnsons, oh, this is from the Smiths, whatever. Like you can smell their home. I always felt that way as a kid. Like I can smell my friends. Like I know, it sounds weird, but you can just
It's so
truly
weird.
like your laundry detergent will be such a big factor in the smell of your home. And that means that it's like sticking around. And fragrance itself, even if it's a fragrance that says made with essential oils, it's the fixative that is toxic. It mimics estrogen. And if we're not listening, like the fact that these estrogen promoted cancers they're thriving on estrogen, on this fake estrogen. The fake estrogens are what gets stuck in our receptors. Women's hormones is such a big deal, and I coach women daily on their hormones and balance. It's really impossible to have hormone balance when you're constantly being exposed to synthetic estrogen. And we're talking about skin exposure, which is more potent than ingesting it. So it would literally be better for you hormone wise. I don't know how it's going to go on your stomach, but if you drank your laundry detergent than if you put it on your body and left it on there 24/7 with your clothing, because our skin just absorbs it straight in. There's no filter, there's no like stomach acid to break it apart, no liver that's clearing that. And then those estrogen molecules, those xenoestrogens, they're fake, they're like Frankenstein estrogens. They go into your receptors, they get stuck. It's hard for our body to clear them.
And
And then
what if,
we
like,
know.
even inhaling
So yeah, even inhaling them is some exposure. I'm sure it's way less to smell it than to have it like stuck on
on your
us.
body? Yeah.
Yeah. So that is like the absolute no-go for me, is to have
That is like a
fragrance in general. It gives us a headache. But I feel also, as women, we know we're always running propaganda machines, right? Like with our husband and kids, because we want them actually to, I joke to say it's propaganda, but we want them to know the truth and to make good choices on their own. But we also want them to have kind of a concept of what healthy is. So if my kids or my husband is like, "Ugh, it smells so fragranced," when they're referring to some plug-in or detergent, and they're like, "I'm so glad." They've in the last year, several of my sons have come to me and said, two of my sons have come and said, "I'm so glad we don't have those fragrances in our house because it gives them headaches and it stinks. It just stinks."
Well, and it's interesting because, low tox applies, and we didn't talk about this pre-show, but like low tox applies to, so many areas of our house, right? Like our kitchen, our laundry room, our bathroom, our cosmetics. And what I found is really interesting, going back to what we were talking about the greenwashing, is that, I have three teenagers, two of them are girls. There's you can go to Ulta, you can go to Sephora, and they have labelings for a lot of their more healthy products. But I found that you really need to read those labels, because some of those labels, some of them are true to what they say, but some of them are not. And so we need to be also very careful about that, because my youngest, I mean, she's very conscious of this. She got her own app. She's like trying to do the best she can. And then I looked at some of the like labels, and I'm like, Piper, these are not like, these are just labeled healthy. And we really need to be able to read our ingredients, understand what our ingredients are saying,
Mm-hmm.
and not just take the marketing store's word for it that
yeah.
they're clean.
Yeah. So,
Because that's sitting on your body too. So
and
that,
that's
those are a lot
it's a
of the
shocking statement, Bronwyn, you said it. It's a shocking statement that what we put on our skin is worse for our hormones than if we were to ingest it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that most people would think it's, absolutely the opposite of that. But the endocrine disruptors are really everywhere. And I mean, we can look at, the health of the US, and we're talking to women all of the time, right, who are dealing with all kinds of hormonal issues and just not feeling great. But we are literally ranked last in industrial nations in terms of health outcomes in the US, even though we spend the most on health right? And so we know that we're not getting it done from a governmental level on, creating healthy families. And so going back to it, it has to be us that's doing that. For
As our
me,
gatekeepers.
we are the gatekeepers. And for me, okay, so we've said, getting rid of synthetic fragrances, which would include things like laundry detergents that have the fragrances in it, and like plugins and scented candles, things like that, especially during the holiday seasons. People are always wanting to get like the really smell good candles to make their home smell nice. But we are in an enclosed space in our homes. And we are breathing those things in on a daily basis. So even if the breathing in isn't as bad for our hormones as putting it on our skin, it's still terrible for our lungs, right? What we're breathing in is getting in, that's irritating. So doing what we can in our homes to avoid anything that has fragrance in it. Now, true essential oils are a very different thing, and you can tell the difference when you smell something. Becky was sharing a product with us that a lot of influencers talk about being like a clean laundry detergent. But to the nose, you know that it's not, when you smell it, you know that it's not a natural scent. So even if it's scented with essential oils, there are other things in it that are contributing to that scent, that toxic scent. So it's other toxic ingredients. Okay, so we've got fragrances that we're avoiding. And then another thing would be, and I feel like this is one that's hard for a lot of people because we're so used to living this way. But if you can stop using your microwave, it's huge. Okay. Especially when you're putting like those meals that are in plastic in the microwave and then heating it. All of the BPA from the plastic is now getting into your food and you're eating it. BPAs are endocrine disruptors. And so that's one simple thing you can do is just use an alternative method for heating things up. We generally do it on our stove. We actually just got our place has the Wonder, what is the name of it? The Wonder oven that's like a air fryer
Yeah,
slash
we have
whatever.
a Ninja air fryer that we'll use.
Yeah, so that's an option for like reheating things. But just avoiding heating anything in plastic is, I think, super important.
Mhm.
Bronwyn.
Well, I want to ask you guys about the air fryer because I don't have one, and I think I should get one. But I wanted to ask you, I think there's a couple of them that actually, well, they're made of plastic, and so then there was like thought that
Yeah.
maybe there was actually plastic exposure in the air inside it from being
Yeah, I
heated.
think it's the like what's covering the oven. So it's like that non-stick material. So going back to like your pans and stuff too, this could apply to that. So it's like the Teflon. I think a lot of people know about Teflon, that it was one of those chemicals that was put on pans to make it non-stick, but then when it was heated, it would leach chemicals into your food. And so
Fun side
so
note,
some of the
my
air
my
fryers
husband
have that.
fun side note about Teflon, my husband's family member, I don't know which one, somewhere up the line created Teflon. So
Oh, awesome.
Ooh.
yeah, the Wonder Oven, it has a chrome stainless steel and everything else is stainless steel. Like the pan is like a chrome stainless steel. So it's
Yeah,
not
I've
supposed
heard
to
that
have
one's a
any
really good one.
plastic. Yeah. Which is
I mean, I
exactly
did
why I
tons of
avoided them for a while.
research on the Ninja one, so I think it's okay.
So once again, doesn't that take us back to that we do the best we can? We know that
Yeah.
there's areas where we're lapsing. And I will say this, there are areas where I am intentionally choosing, shock, a toxin.
Mm.
Um, and so I think it comes down to what are the daily exposures that we can kind of get rid of to the best of our ability versus things that are happening like not as frequently. Like I will probably always highlight my hair. I know it's not great. I go in full aware that I am putting chemicals on my hair when I go in to get my hair done, but I'm doing it every 8 to 10 weeks. And so maybe I've justified that, that's better than like the things that I'm putting on my body and doing daily. Um, One thing I wanted to talk about though with the fragrance, have you ladies seen the Stink documentary?
I haven't.
What I'm talking about? So
No.
there's a documentary. This would be great for everybody to watch. And it is about fragrance. So the premise is like this dad like smells something, I think, on his daughter's clothing and like kind of goes on researching like what is it that he's smelling and goes down this like rabbit hole of learning about fragrances and how fragrance isn't just fragrance like as we think of it, but it really is a word that masks like potentially thousands of
I
different
think it's like
chemicals.
3,500 chemicals can
It's
be
something insane,
specified.
right?
It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
it's just called fragrance on the label. So you literally have zero idea. If you're not working with a full disclosure company for your products, like getting them from full disclosure company, you literally have zero idea what is in your products because they're able to label with the word fragrance, which means potentially 3,500 different
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Kind of crazy, but it's a really good
A lot
document.
of these a lot of these chemicals are like banned in Europe, right? It's not just like, oh, well, lots of chemicals. Well,
Yeah.
specific ones that are banned in other places because they're known to be toxic or to be endocrine disruptors. But even in Europe, there's toxins and endocrine disruptors used. It's not like I don't know of a place where only the purest, because I think one thing is like new chemicals are invented all the time. And so I think a lot of countries have like lists that are banned, but then what's next? Someone will just invent the next thing. And how do you test it? That's the other thing. Some things go through testing, and I am not for animal testing necessarily. Like I'm not. That seems so sad to like rub these chemicals onto beagles or cats or like it sounds terrible. But even if that was done and they were like, oh, 2 weeks of that and it was fine. Well, we're not looking at even the lifetime of something. Like I want to know that a chemical is okay not just for a dog, but also for a human and for like 10 years of exposure. And then follow that person. Did they get cancer after that? When we can see things happening right away, like the frogs are changing from males to females and right from these like environmental exposures, we're really concerned. But what we don't see is like long-term exposure ending up with ill health in one way or another. And we speak cancer a lot, right, about this in these topics because um, certainly hormonal disruptors can tend toward that. But there's all sorts of disease that we have in higher amounts, like you were referring to, Andrea, like you know, diseases of aging, right? We have cardiac disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's that are in such high amounts in the West. And how do we know whether our toxic exposures are adding anything to that? We just don't know because we don't have studies at all
Well,
on whether
or what
there's
it does to the brain or your focus or your concentration. I mean, we know like what we know about essential oils that, our plants do so much for our brain. Like that,
good. Yeah.
those aromas do so much to our brain. So wouldn't it make sense that the toxins that we're smelling are affecting our brain?
Mhm. And then you have a mom who has a kid, right, with ADD or ADHD, and she decides to remove the fragrance from her home and see what happens. And suddenly he's sleeping better. And then she adds a diffuser next to his, desk when he's doing his homework, and suddenly he's able to focus. And it's like these little shifts can make a big difference. And that, like, as moms, we know that those little differences add up, and then suddenly like the kid has higher self-esteem and has like excitement about going to school and doing his work. Like we know that these little changes have huge impact for our kids' future.
It's a friend of my daughter's. Actually, they don't go to school together anymore, but they were in co-op together at our homeschool community for a couple of years. And she would miss so much school because she has really bad asthma. And so she would miss, our community day like fairly frequently. And I remember going over to her house to drop something off once, and I could just smell like the fragrances, like the plugins, which is not like it's not a judgment at all because most people do use them. But I was thinking, with what I know, I was like, oh my gosh, like how do you? Because I don't, I didn't have really a relationship with the mom. It's like, how do you like say something to somebody like this could be contributing, right? Um, Without feeling like you have that relationship to do that. So I did not say anything. And I often think of it, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had said something to her because I do wonder how much her symptoms would have reduced if she wasn't being exposed to that every day in her home,
Well,
you know?
you wonder because, my husband's teaching middle school and he's like, he comes home, he's like, yeah, his 7th hour class, the last class of the day, is so difficult. And apparently, ADD medication is time release. And he's like, the kids are like telling him that their medication is running out. He's like, it's got to be 30 to 40% of a lot of these kids that have ADD that are struggling with this. the funny part is that in my natural community, of you all and lots of other people that I've known for years, like our children don't have these problems. And so I'm going, is it the way we eat? Is it these fragrances? Is it a combination of all the things? Like I'd literally like to go into some of these homes and be like, can I help you with this? Because I realize that like if there's 30 to 40% of the kids that are having these struggles, that's a really hard life for them. For one, he can't teach a classroom in seventh hour. Like the kids are all over the place. You're going like there's easier solutions to this than giving your kid, medication a lot of times.
Right. And I think there's the bioaccumulation factor, right? I mean, it's like
Right.
we were designed to be able to handle some toxins, right? Like that our bodies would be able to process things. That's obviously why we have a liver, to help process things. But when you start talking about, eating non-foods for a lot of our diet, right? All processed crud. And we're junking up our livers and making it to where it's having to focus on other things. And then you're adding this insult of, fragrances and toxic ingredients and stuff that we're exposed to, things we're putting on our bodies. I think about like the Axe. That was the big thing when I was teaching high school. Like the boys loved the Axe, like body, what is it? Like a body spray, body,
Right.
whatever it is. Um, and so it is that bioaccumulation of stuff. Like it's not just a one-time thing. It's like, what are you doing every day? What does your diet look like? Are you moving? Because we could get into talking about lymphatics, right? Like our lymphatic system and how that plays into helping with detox, moving our bodies, sweating. And so when you're not moving your body and the diet is not whole foods and you're being exposed to all of these things, it's a recipe. I feel like I've heard you talk about it, Becky, like the like you're just filling up and finally it's going to spill over, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
I've
filling.
I've taught my clients that for a long time, that it's like this bucket. Like it's like just picture like filling up a bucket of water. It's like your body's kind of the same. It can kind of become like oversaturated. So yes, absolutely our body can handle some chemicals. And sometimes I get frustrated because I'm like, you hear, people online be like, it's no big deal. Your body can handle it. Of course it can. Of course it can. But when we bioaccumulate all that, it does spill over. And if we're like not paying attention at all, if it's, it's like it's gonna spill over.
One
So
of these things too,
changes.
we tend to bioaccumulate in our fat. And
Yeah.
so if you look at our populace, it's actually so, so sad when you look at our populace. Like if you go to a public event, I went to register my son for football, like youth football, sixth grade, right? And so it's all the other moms, dads out there, and everybody is like a sports advocate. They're putting their kid into sports. And I was sad. Like I was sad to realize these are like my peers. They're like gonna be moms and dads my age-ish. And so many of us were overweight, but also many obese. And I just thought this is what America is. Like if you just take a kind of a cross section, we are overweight as a country. Like that's known. It's a known thing. But when you go to a different country, if you go to Europe or you go to Asia and you realize like the people here aren't like sure there's the odd
It's an
overweight person.
anomaly though there. It really is.
Yeah.
Like in
And
Asia.
being
Well,
obese isn't even an anomaly here.
essentially, like our body's trying to protect us as well from all these toxins.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
that's what it's doing, trying to protect you. But yeah, this is kind of what the end result is, right? Like,
Let's dig into that a bit more. What does that look like? Like the protection means we put on fat cells to
we put,
dilute those toxins because we can't process them. So we're just sticking
right?
them in cold storage.
Yeah. So the body's like, oh my gosh, I can't handle all this stuff. What can I do to keep you alive, keep you well, keep you functioning? And so it does. It pulls all those into those fat cells, kind of dilutes them down, like walls them off from the rest of the body.
Mhm. But there's a place at which like we're full, like you say.
Yeah. You
There's a
still
max
come
capacity.
or fuller. Yeah.
And also it's kind of instructive as like when we go to like, hey, I want to reduce in weight and it's so hard. Well, our body's like, really? now I have to deal with these chemicals. So,
Well, then it has to process them, right?
right.
So if you're
And so,
not in a position to process,
mhm.
it's like that's the thing. It has a hard time letting go of them.
So sweating, whether it's by like sauna or exercise, is such an important part as far as like our modern day fat loss has to include detox support.
And how
Yes.
many
I
people
mean,
don't
liver
sweat?
support
I mean, let's talk about sweat for a minute because a lot of people that have been diagnosed with cancer can't sweat. So their
because of
body
their
finally gets to a place where it can't anymore. And
and
we have a lot of the population that just doesn't, like just chooses not to or can't get to a time where they are moving that much.
well, and we're putting antiperspirant deodorant in our armpits. That's
Yeah,
one
not
actually
sweating
we didn't
purposely.
even talk about
That's a whole other thing, right? To
that.
avoid is the
Aluminum and
liquid-based deodorants.
And it's crazy when you start talking this stuff out loud because you're like, oh my gosh, no wonder.
yeah. So
It's no
Andre, you
wonder
asked
we're sick. It's no wonder we're sick.
No
before
wonder.
we started, you asked what's the thing you guys like have changed or whatever that you think most people haven't. We didn't even talk about deodorant.
I
That's
know.
probably the thing that most people are still using a deodorant with a synthetic fragrance, which is hormone disrupting, and antiperspirant. I don't know the percentage that use antiperspirant, but I think a huge number do, which is stopping the natural process of sweating, which is good. Um, and some people feel like, I remember when I used to wear that and I was like, I'm just, it's not negotiable for me because I don't want to stink and be sweating all the time. Later, when I realized that my body trying to sweat a lot was actually like being over toxic and actually trying to get the things moving out. So now that I have detoxed, I haven't worn antiperspirant in years. I do sweat a little bit, but like not excessive amounts at all. So I think really it has to do with like if you're sweating a lot, please consider like how you could increase that. Like let that happen in a sauna. Drink lots of water, like start and support the liver, like start detoxing other routes. So the skin is actually the last place that a body chooses to detox. Because our first lines are like the colon, like what we poop out every day is our first line of detox, what we pee out to, so kidneys and colon. And then the liver is really, connected to the colon because the bile goes from liver into small intestine and
I
then
could
large
do a whole
intestine.
episode on detox because I'm like, there's so many things that are great
So
for
many
detox
pieces.
that
Okay,
we just
so I'll
could talk
pause.
about.
I'll pause the detox
Over.
conversation. But all this to say, like, that is the other half, right, of like going non-tox is to realize like we're already exposed and we'll continue to be exposed to things, whether we choose them or not. And so we have to think about detox.
Yeah,
But,
we have to live in the world and we have to do it with peace. So
yeah.
we can't avoid it all. All right. So for I think a lot of our listeners are people who are already on this journey, but for those who are just starting out, what would y'all say as we end here? What would be three things you would do? Okay. If somebody's feeling overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, there's so much, like what are the three things you would do in your home as the gatekeeper of your home right now to start moving in that direction of a more low tox lifestyle for your family?
Can I start with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so before I start with my three, I want to kind of circle back to what you said, Andrea, as far as like how we go about this. And recognizing that, and Becky, you mentioned that too, like the baby steps are important. And so I think one decision to make is just that every time you replace, like we go through things all the time, right? We use up shampoo, and so then you buy a new one. So every time you replace it, just kind of make a promise to yourself that you'll take the time, and it might be just a few minutes, right? Really, we can search things fairly quickly. Or you could, if you find a clean company, like Young Living is a great company, then you can just start switching things as you use it up. So you're using up that bottle of shampoo, you're buying something that's clean, right, to replace it. So that over time, without having a huge impact to your budget, you do end up swapping out, right? The other thing is to recognize that. So that's number one is slowly over time as you just replace as you go. Number two is just the power of dilution. So if you have a toxic product, if you use it every other day instead of every day, you actually have 50% less exposure, right? And this can be helpful when you have things that you actually can't avoid. Like say you're a roommate in a home, right? Maybe you just have one room in a home with other people and they are using fragrances and you're like, I'm exposed. You could open your window. Like literally just opening your window. That's the other thing is we didn't even talk about that there are toxins from construction, toxins on new furniture. So like if you get a new piece of furniture, you could set it in the garage for a month until it stops having that smell to it, right? So that's just a way to dilute and to avoid like the intense exposures. We're not necessarily saying to choose a completely different lifestyle, but yeah, you can just open your window and allow air dilution to help you avoid breathing in toxins all night. A lot of our construction materials, not just paint, but also like sealants, new carpet. Even the trim boards are now like pressed wood, which have glues in them. So all of those are off gassing over time. And just by opening your windows, you dilute. Um, and then number three is that baby steps really do make a difference. So if you make one small change, even if it's not like your ideal, maybe the ideal isn't in your budget right now, you have made a step in the right direction. So that brings me into my number one, which is water. I would say the number one thing to do is start working toward clean water. So if you're drinking tap water, please look like, well, first of all, what the research you would want to do is to look into your municipality and see what their testing is I think they're most are required to do it annually. And so if you can get that testing report, what you would want to do in looking for like a filter for your water is to match up like what toxins you have with what kind of filter you bring in. And different places, different states will have different kinds of toxins. Some of those toxins are actually just naturally occurring. Like in my area, there are areas where you have a well and you have arsenic in it, just small amounts. Well, that's naturally occurring, but obviously toxic. So you want to match up the filter you have to make sure that it will filter the kind of toxin you have because all filters will not filter all things. Probably, the only way to have like completely pure water is to distill it, but then you've like lost all your minerals. So that's not a perfect solution either. And the whole water thing is pretty complex. However, the baby step would be this isn't my favorite option, but like a Brita or a countertop, just like pitcher, that kind of a carbon block will take out some of the chlorine and some of those main, like larger molecules. It doesn't take out everything. It's not my favorite option, but it's a huge step in the right direction and costs, less than $50 to do some kind of a setup like that. So, like if you were sending a kid off to a college dorm room, choose something like that so that they could have water. Buying bottled water is just another way to have more plastic in our exposures. So that's really not a good solution. And then some bottled water is literally just bottled city water. So, you know, it gets expensive if you try to get it bottled. My number two is kind of I already said is the laundry detergent. Find laundry detergent that works well or a laundry system. I feel like mine is a laundry system because it is the Thieves Laundry soap, and then using sodium percarbonate, which is the active molecule for oxidant bleach. And that kind of combo is working well as my laundry system. But that depends on your own water again, too. So not everyone's going to have the same laundry system. But your drinking water, your laundry system, and then the third one, I don't know, deodorant's a good one because that's like an everyday and it's like so in our armpits and right by our lymph nodes. So those are my top three.
How about you, Becky?
I think I would go with a plant-based cleaner. So I like Thieves because like we talked about, it's just diluted and inexpensive and can go everywhere. Like I can use one product for everything. So I love that. I would say another one would be, yeah, be careful about what you're putting in your air. So your candles, a lot of times those wicks have a lot of toxins in them. You're breathing them in, you don't know what you're burning. And they say it can be like smoking. So you want to be careful with that. Again, we just use pure essential oils. And again, with that, there's so much junk essential oils on the market. So make sure you're just using a really good product. All three of us always go with Young Living for that because we know we can trust it and we've seen the farms all over the world and know it's very reliable. And then Third thing, I
Drum
think
roll.
I would just, yeah, start being conscious about what you use for your cosmetics, for your skincare. Just kind of like take a look, start taking a look at that. Um, Start taking a look what's in them and what they're using. And again, one thing at a time, just kind of like, don't feel like you have to replace everything at a time. Don't feel like, you know, like just don't get stressed about it and start replacing one thing at a time. There's a lot more clean products now than there were 10 years ago,
There are. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
which I think is great.
I'm so glad we're moving in that direction. I mean, even from the government standpoint of like working on getting rid of food dyes and that kind of stuff, I'm really happy that at least there's little steps being taken. Wanted to say two things to look for in makeup: parabens, phthalates. What are those are the two big ones that I think of often. What else
Right.
would
And
you
those are
add to
going
that?
to, again, disrupt your endocrine system. So
Estrogens.
it's going to cause a lot of problems with your female
Fragrance.
hormones
Yeah.
if you don't be careful about those. So yeah.
Okay, and I would just add in, I'm with you guys on all of that. I would just add in, once again, not microwaving in plastic. That's a huge BPA exposure when you're heating things in plastic. I think it's hard to totally get rid of plastic in our homes, but if you can store things, in glass as opposed to plastic, that's a good thing. Obviously, when we're getting things from the grocery store, it's coming in plastic, right? So we are having that exposure. Um, so I'd say the microwave, and then I would also just a focus on moving so that you are getting some of that sweating. You're getting the lymphatic system going. It's, helping with some of that sluggishness. And then any just sort of liver support you can do by eating, a whole food diet. We will go into a whole thing on detoxing, but any sort of liver support you can do, like castor oil packs. There's supplements you can use to support liver. And yeah. And then the very last thing I'd say is don't stress. Do what you can and just chill out about the rest because God created us with beautiful bodies that can handle some toxic load. And we're just going to do what we can.
And we have to remember there's a healthy amount of stress. Like the body's designed to actually be more resilient if you do get a little stress. And your body actually does better under a small amount of stress. We're not talking about chronic stress, but just a little bit. So yeah, just don't stress.
Be a little bit stressed out about our products. Is that what you're saying?
Be a little
Be a
bit
little
stressed
bit
out,
stressed
just not a lot
sometimes.
stressed out.
That's
Okay?
A
really
We
lot.
got
the deal.
it?
Can I give an honorable mention to non-fluoride toothpaste? That's
Oh, yes.
Fluoride is something we didn't talk about,
Oh
but
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's actually things that we'll later think like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we didn't mention this. But fluoride is something that the three of us kicked to the curb years ago. It doesn't take long. If you go research that, there's definitely, research to show that fluoride hardens tooth enamel. But there's a lot of research to show that people are healthy without it. Xylitol will do the same thing. And the history of fluoride is not good. It was a toxic material that was a byproduct from World War II. And they're like, what should we do with this toxin? Oh, if we stick it in toothpaste, it hardens teeth.
Why don't we
But it's
stick
a
it in toothpaste?
neurotoxin, which means it's not great for your brain.
Oh, it's bad for
Also,
your
wasn't
brain.
there some research study done on like the benefits of fluoride for teeth, but it was done on a bunch of people who didn't have teeth? I
What?
swear, I will find
I don't
that.
know. I'd have to look that up.
It is the craziest thing. You're like, okay,
Well, it's
for real,
definitely toxic for the thyroid. And thyroid disease is so common.
rampant.
Like if you
Yeah.
have anybody in your family that has thyroid disease, definitely avoid the fluoride. You can use xylitol and it does the same thing. So
Yeah,
there's
I've actually had less cavities since I switched to a non-fluoride toothpaste 18 years ago. I've had less cavities since doing that than I did in the first, 20 some years of my life. So I don't know. All right. Well, thank y'all for being with us for this episode of The Overflow, and we will see you next time. Be sure to check out our Instagram pages. Becky, yours is,
Becky J. Webb.
mine's clean green start.
and I'm just Andrea Lehman. Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye.